Welcome back to another episode here on the actual Hermitcraft server. We are starting this episode off where the last one ended, and things are a little bit different, as you can see. Now, if you didn't catch the last episode, there'll be a card in the top right of the screen. You need to go check it out. It was amazing, and I'm so happy with how well received that video was. Unfortunately though, I knew there would be some people. Only 209 of you disliked the video. I was quite honestly expecting a lot more people to dislike that video. So I had pre-prepared a message from me and my friends for you to watch at the beginning of this episode. Alright, my workers. Do you want to introduce yourselves? Everyone's so shy except the baby.
Well.
So
I'm Winnie, and that's my grandson. So.
Yes, who I had to tell to shut up for a joke. We're all friends. We're all part of the xisumavoid team, whatever you want to call us. And this is just a backup of the Hermitcraft world. We're all friends. And the last episode that you watched was April Fools. So, y'all been fooled or punked? What do they say for April Fools?
Y'all been graced.
Y'all been graced.
Hey.
There we go. And I also might actually end up building this at some point on Hermitcraft in survival, and I do enjoy playing this game. Can you believe it? One more. Bye bye.
Bye bye. No, he won't. Of course, he doesn't perform on cue.
Bye bye.
No more.
Beautiful.
Oh. So there you have it, April Fools, and as I mentioned in one of those clips, I do actually have plans to build that clock tower in this area, so I might come back and just do that in a live stream and kind of recreate something similar to what we did in that episode here on the actual Hermitcraft server where the actual hermits are currently playing. Now, I'm recording the beginning of this episode after I've already recorded like half of this episode or more, and we've been working over at Corp Studios and doing some really amazing and fun building. I've actually really enjoyed myself so far this episode, and now we're going to head over to a place that has been given a name, and that name is Tower Bay. Do you know where Tower Bay is? It's the kelp farm area. It's a bay, it's got towers in it. And whoever commented that, I really should have written your name down or something. Thank you for the wonderful suggestion. This place over here is now going to be known as Tower Bay. Now, before we get to the part of this video that was actually the first bit I started recording, I have one more thing to do, and that is an announcement. On the weekend of April the 20th and 21st, we are having a live stream weekend. You can see the schedule on your screen. As you might tell, it is a very special one because this is roughly 7 years on from when Hermitcraft first started. So we have put together a very special stream. Here is the schedule for April the 20th. As you can see, there are going to be free world tours on this day, and each world tour is going to have two hosts that will take you around the world and explore all the things that we have done in the history of Hermitcraft. On the second day, the Sunday, we'll have two world tours for season 4 and 5, and that means over the weekend we're going to cover every single world and go around them and check out all the stuff. It's going to be a very special event to celebrate 7 years of Hermitcraft. So remember, livestream.hermitcraft.com, April the 20th, April the 21st. Put those dates in your calendar, and I hope to see you there. So we are standing in the basement of the HRN station, and I don't know how you're supposed to properly get to here apart from falling down from that hole up there. But there is a big space here for a station for the yellow line that goes through Corp Studios and into the pirate area. And I have been working on the tunnel and the tracks and all of the details over here. And as you'll see when we come to the end here, there is now this nice and calming room with the grey walls and the white ceiling, and then we go up and above, and I want you to pay attention here. Check out what happens on either side of me. Bam! That is amazing. We have a crossing system now, and I'm yet to install it elsewhere because I have run into a little bit of a redstone problem. Oh yes, I have. Oh, and by the way, when you go over one of these activator rails, it doesn't activate this trapdoor. That's because I've actually gone around and made sure that all of these blocks right here have a lever underneath them to be powered. So I've been doing a load of tedious little grindy things over here, also making a few little changes like bringing all of these blocks up to the same height. But anyway, we can drop down through the middle here, and you can see there's some redstone activated down below. And here what we have is a pulse lengthener to turn off the torch that is powering this redstone line. Now the problem with this redstone is we have 2 torches as the input. So on the opposite side we have a torch over here, and that doesn't work for the signal flow, because if I put this redstone here and we punch out the one on the other side, you can see it makes no difference. Now I believe the solution to this, because there isn't really another way to send a signal up vertically like this, at least consistently. We could use observers to send a signal upwards, right, but we need it to be consistent. I think the solution is to have 2 sets of torches, which means that the signal down here then doesn't have to be on when it's fed into it. But then I've still got to make a pulse lengthener. So this could get a little bit confusing for me. My redstone skills are obviously quite rusty. There was a time where I used to do redstone every day, and that time is no more, unfortunately. My hunch was that this was quite simple, and that turns out to be true. So the pulse lengthener works exactly the same way, except the inversion we had with the torch now happens at each of these individual points, and the redstone signal going across the other side doesn't interfere with those ones. Excellent. Let's end a pearl out of here by hitting that thing and moving off to the side. And by the way, over here you'll notice that there are detector rails on either side. That is purely for symmetry reasons now, because of course we come by on this side over here. So let's give it a quick test whirl, and there go the trapdoors. Excellent. And there goes my minecart. Great. Well, that's this one right here done. I'm going to seal it up, and obviously I've now got to go and copy the redstone to the ones either side. That has been taken care of, so into the minecart, and you will now see the trapdoors at all of the different stages. Obviously we went through that one a little bit slow. There's the 3rd one, and then up ahead the 4th one. There might be more of these in the future, but there you go. Awesome, right? And we have another project to work on now in this area. There's going to be so many projects to tie this amazing build all together. But around the corner here where we had our security gate, you'll see that the path just extends a little bit further, and it is going to go around to the left hand side to the water tower, which Cubfan is going to be working on at some point in the future. And on the right here looks like some sort of ominous void as you come around the corner. It's actually just our tarmac surface, because this is going to be a work area where I'm going to challenge myself to build a couple of things like forklifts and trucks, and we'll have some crates in here, and it'll basically be like a little workstation at the back of the studio. I've got a feeling that this little project here is going to turn out great, because the ideas are really flowing to me at the moment, and I'm just sort of structuring them into things that I need to do one by one. The first thing is to put in a border. Even though this area is already behind a security gate, all of our trucks and construction stuff, we actually want that to be behind a wall, which I've been building right here. On this side it looks a little bit boxy because the doors are on the inside, and then I messed around with putting them like this, which I don't think looks as good. And over here I've even doubled up the doors, which is kind of crazy. But when we bring them out by 1 block, we get a little bit more shape on this side. And on the inside we get a little bit of space to add light sources. We do want to put some in here. And what I can do is hang them from the top. Not like that, that looks kind of silly. And that will allow some light to kind of creep into this area. I'm not focusing on lighting everything up with torches, because that looks silly. And we're not going to spend a lot of time over here when it's finished, of course. This is not particularly a functional area. But the other thing we can, of course, do is put in light sources hanging off like that as well. I will basically make up my mind about these 2 decisions, get it done all the way across here, but then the next thing is to start working on the sand at the back, and I know how we can create a really cool border right here. What we need to do is build the sand up itself, start to bringing some sandstone slabs, sandstone stairs, create some piles and materials, and kind of make it feel like the area has been pushed about a little bit. You know, the trucks have come in and pushed the sand up and really kind of created a space for construction here. So that, I think, will bring the right kind of detail to this area and allow us to build everything we need in the middle. And there it is, my friends. The landscape tells a story. We can see that the earth has been unsettled here, and that really sets the tone for this area. I've thrown in a brown couple of blocks here. And you know what, I think it'd be nice if there was something even darker, and there is. There's like a shade of terracotta that might mix in here, but the problem is terracotta's very smooth. We need to keep this kind of rough around here, but it's the usual tricks of mixing up blocks on the floor. Lots of this cracked stuff is really close to the edge to make it look like it's been disturbed, and then of course the sand has been pushed up into little piles where all of this tarmac has been laid down. So that's really done its job, and I'm happy with that. So the story of the area has started to be defined by the landscape around here, and now we need to bring more building to it to further enhance that. And what we've got to think about is, what is the purpose of what we're building? It is a construction area. There's going to be a crane, there'll be some trucks that move around, and there'll be supplies for building the stages that go inside our giant stages right here. I mean, we call this a stage, but there'll be a stage inside the stage. I know that's kind of funky, but I know you know what I mean as well. So what we need is for some ramps to bring those materials onto the inside, right? And that is a little bit high up, I think, but it will be something along this line, where over here we would then have a vehicle that can bring supplies into the stage itself. And it looks a little haphazard and bulky at the moment, but it'll be my job to make it not so. So then at the back of our stage we have an opening over here. We'll have a little ramp that goes down onto the stage itself at the other side, and then that really gives this more purpose, right? Because it's bringing things inside the buildings. And yes, that was plural, so there'll be one of these ramps on this side and another one somewhere over here. When 1.14 hits, we're going to have so many more half slabs and stairs available that things like this will look even better, I believe, as I would have liked to have used some different materials up here from these slabs and those stairs, but they get the job done. And walking across it here, it feels pretty good. It's a pretty slick transition, and down below it looks alright as well. There's a nice kind of feel of structure here. One thing we will have to do though is lower the path a little bit, and I think we have an opportunity to use some banners again, which we've been using in this area. Maybe make like a caution sign and hang it off of here, so it's like watch your head and then it dips under. But anyway, I've mirrored what we've done on that side over here, and it kind of lines up with the wall, which is pretty cool. And so that just makes it all kind of smooth. However, that right there, that needs to change, doesn't it? Yes, that looks 10 times better. And I think we should add a trapdoor, yes, so it comes all the way across. So I said that I had a vision and I've broken it down into stages, and we're now in the vehicle stage, and we've built our first little truck right here, which has one of those scoops at the top for, you know, shifting around materials in it. I thought I'd put it here to kind of suggest that that is the vehicle that has been scooping up all of this sand and making all of this right here reality. Now, we don't have too much space, and the next vehicle that I want to build is going to be a large one. It's going to be like a trucker with a storage crate on the back, and then we can have some of the materials put into the last few spaces around here. So it's going to occupy this space, and as you may have seen with the music and the time-lapse just over here in the background, we have another one of these. It's a little bit smaller than the last one. It's got a couple of quirks since it doesn't have a path going underneath it. It can be different, but around here you can see that the path now drops down, and we've got little exclamation points to grab your attention, and make sure you're wearing your hard hat, you know, because you might bump your head as you go under. Yeah, I love the banners. Such a great way to convey some ideas. So I've just had a little bit of a eureka moment. This truck right here was looking really strange when it was 5 blocks wide, so I've reduced it to 3. The other one over there is 5 wide, but for this I think it can be slimmer. And what I wanted to do was put doors going all the way down the side, but the thing is, doors are dependent on the block below, so it'd have to be in line with this. The handle kind of made it look a little bit odd, and then I remembered that the spruce trapdoor would remove the handle and it could float independent, so we can put it as I've done like here, but I've put this back so there can be like a way to walk from one thing to the other, which I think is pretty cool. But it's inside of here where all the materials are going to be supplied. What I have to do is now place all of these, which can be kind of tricky. Actually, I think, there we go, that's the technique. So I can place them like that, and then I can walk back and flip them all open, and then we've created a wall. So I just remove these blocks from underneath, and that is looking pretty snazzy, I think. I thought I was running out of my creative juices for a second. I felt like I might have to say, hey, you in the comments, help me out with some suggestions. I thought this was going to be the easiest bit to come along here and just throw down some materials, but after persisting at it for a while, oh, that kind of looks awful, doesn't it? Turns out it is. Once you just start throwing down some redstone blocks, they kind of explain themselves. They look like things that are about to get used somewhere, and so we're going to throw down a few more piles here and there. We are actually starting to run out of space a little bit. But yeah, just doing that, it just looks like a pile of pistons, right? Like we're going to set up some redstone in the back area and things are going to happen, especially the lamps, because that makes you think of lighting. So I've got a few more blocks here to place down. And do you know what? I think we're done. I think this back area is pretty much finished now. That's great. I like that there's a clearing between there and there. It makes it look like things have been unloaded and gone straight in. Fantastic. This project back here has been so much fun. I hope you've enjoyed it as well. Our activities at Concorp Studios are done for this episode. I'm sure we will be back there soon. But right now, my friends, I would like to check out a build that someone else on the server has made. The Jangler has opened a shop in the mall. It is quite the sight to behold, and it is down the bottom of here, I believe at the end of one of the 4 corridors. You know, I almost missed it, but then I spotted some fire up the top there. I believe that is the entrance. Let's throw an ender pearl. Drop gracefully down to the side here. Oh wow, here we go. Jangler shop. Right, this is remarkable. Look at this right here. There's an oven cooking up a giant cookie. Over on this side, there is a tray of hot cookies, cookie drying rack, and then a giant cookie with a... what is that, like a jester hat? So it simply says, place an order here for a bad deed prank. Here. Well, I don't have any ideas right now, so peeps, if you got any ideas for a bad deed prank, put them in the comments down below, and maybe we'll take a returning journey to this place. I would like an excuse to come back here, as it is a wonderful, wonderful build. So this part of the video was directly after where I recorded the intro with me flying over here to give you kind of some perspective of what's going on. And what you'll see in front of us is that this area has been perdified. I wanted to do a different block palette to this, but I kind of took what Concorp had done with the back of their building and extended it through here. Leaf blocks, dark oak saplings which can't grow into trees, and even some concrete powder down the bottom here. We've got a really nice overgrown shrubbery, and then we start to work in some stone around here as well. In fact, I'm going to do a little bit more of this landscaping project at the beginning here and finish up this side, as we threw a little bit of stone in, but it kind of ended just here. So I've thrown down a few blocks and it's looking pretty good. I've kind of phased out the cobblestone as we get further over here where it's going to be flatter. And the general idea is that between all of these buildings that we're creating, there will be different custom terrains that we're going to throw together. And over here I've just been chopping down a whole bunch of oak wood because we're going to need a lot of it for one of the other platforms. I think though it's a good idea for me to get up in the sky. As you can see, we've got something going on over here. There's something going on over there, and yet another one further back as well. So these will be platforms for our skyscrapers. I've invited the Concorp to come over and build a couple of their own. They're going to have this very big plot right here, and it's kind of next to a build that they did together, so I felt like that was an appropriate space to give them. Then over here we're going to have a HRN station, and one of the challenges I have is to connect a rail from over here to over in that area. We'll come back to that in a second. I'm then trying to fill in the other spaces with more platforms for these to go. So we're going to have another skyscraper over here. This will probably be a smaller one. And in this space in the middle, I'm thinking of doing a courtyard with some fountains and whatnot, and then that's going to leave us with more space over this side to create more of these platforms. But we're doing everything one bit at a time, and the thing I'd like to focus on next is the HRN line. As I expressed in the last episode, there is a rail going over here. It's going to run through into Python's area, and I discussed with him the rail is actually going to go through Python's builds like this, through his skyscrapers. So on a live stream, I built up this little facade, which mirrors that one there. I don't know if that's what Python was planning on, but it was in order to be able to bring the line over to this kind of position and think about how I'm going to get it from here over to there. Now what we most often see on this server is lines like this, lots of sharp right angled turns, and I'd like to try and create something that's a little bit more organic. So I've downloaded the region file that we're playing in, put it into a world. That's why the GTing base is missing, because basically this region is just a backup, and I've been using this to do some calculations. Now the problem is if we want to create a straight line between this bit and that bit right here, the numbers get kind of funky. So there are 3 different axes that we are working on. We have a height difference of 13 blocks from the blue ones to the blue ones over there. Across is 22 and the distance forwards is 34. So if I use these numbers and do some maths, it means that we need our track to go down every 2.61 blocks and move to the side every 1.54. And the obvious problem with that is that it doesn't line up with the grid very well. I've also been thinking that there are some limitations as to how we can place out rails as well. This right here is an example of how we need to be able to keep powered rails in our layout so that the player can actually move along it and not get stuck on it, which kind of limits the way at which you can turn. So from here, I think what we have to do is have our track extend to a certain point where we can then put something like this in between the two spots. So in and amongst the madness that you see here, there is actually a solution, something that lines up. I'm going to go build it in survival and then it will all make sense. But I got to say, sometimes I think I should just take the easy way out. You know, this took me far too long to figure out. Luckily for me, the building process for this is kind of easy. What you're seeing me do is put a block in the wrong spot. No. We come out to the side like this. We count out 6 blocks. So that's the 6th. And then that one there is where the next one starts. So we can just repeat that over and over again and continue extending this. Then we can come back down further here and you can see that there is a pattern on the other side that I can just repeat over and over again as well. So we start here, bring it across, bring it out. That does not look right, does it? Turns out it is correct. We just add one unnecessary block, which is the first one that I placed, so that technically doesn't need to be here. But we're placing more blocks than we need, so this thing has a real sense of structure. We'll end up throwing in some quartz stairs on the side and stuff to tidy this thing up and make it look a little interesting. I have run out of quartz blocks. As you can see, we're using quite a few here, so I have to book myself a trip to the Nether at some point in the near future. But I'm just placing down the rails. There's a nice little rhythm to all of this. And there's also a rhythm with where we're putting our levers, right? Like this. But they're going to be exposed, which we don't want. But I'm going to cover them up with slabs. And I think this will end up looking pretty good. And that'll do for today, I think. We've pretty much sussed the entire thing out. And we'll have a look at it from a few different angles. Of course, we're going to have support beams coming down from the bottom of this. And earlier in the video, I mentioned I wanted to come up with something organic. I don't think we actually achieved organic here, but we certainly got an interesting diagonal shape out of this. And it's yet to be finished, but I really like it so far. And there will be an interesting bit at the back of Python's building here where one of the rails has to like wiggle across to the other side, but we'll be able to make it look alright. And did I mention support beams? I think what we'll do is we'll take the one at the very end and pillar up to it. Yeah, something like that. So every so often we'll probably put one of those in and we'll space them out and make it look cool. For now though, we're going to wrap this one up, peeps. Remember, there is a Hermitcraft live stream day approaching. Put the April the 20th and 21st in your calendar. And if you've enjoyed this video, then please do leave a like as always. Thank you so much for your support. And I will see you very soon with another episode of Hermitcraft. So ciao for now. Bye bye.